Bonjour. Je veux parler en anglais. Ça va? My French is terrible. It's not non-existent, but it is kind of lousy. So I'll happy to talk in English. Title. I was trying to figure out what to talk about, and title was about becoming AI hackers. Something I've been writing about for a couple of years, and that's really about thinking what happens when AI systems start looking for loopholes in rules. You know, like they're finding vulnerabilities in computer code. Can they find vulnerabilities in the tax code and government systems, and what that will result in? I actually don't want to talk about that right now. Not that I don't want to. I just want to talk about something else that I'm thinking about. I want to talk about AI and integrity. This is a talk I'm working on, so you're kind of seeing it in draft form. The RSA conference, which happens in spring in San Francisco every year, they kind of always want me to have something new, so I need to come up with something new. This is what I'm thinking about. It's kind of a test drive, so that is what I'm going to do here. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. So I want to talk about integrity, which is a security property that I think we all claim to care about and then largely ignore. And I mean this broadly, and not just no tampering, but correct behavior you can verify. And that's because we are now building systems that don't just process data. We're building systems that act, right? AI agents, Internet of Things, critical infrastructure, computers that affect the world in a direct physical manner. And today, an integrity failure isn't just my data got changed, it's the wrong thing happened, right? At scale, often faster than we can stop it. Which means that security is less about secrets and more about correctness. So I argue that we are entering the age of integrity and that we have a lot of work to do. And you're going to see me make notes in my talk as I go because I'm actually fixing it. All right, so let's start with an incident that, depending on your definition, either was or was not a security failure. So July 2024, CrowdStrike took down Windows systems from around the world. About 8.5 million Windows devices. That's less than 1% of devices locally, but the impact was enormous. Airports, hospitals, call centers, banking. I was stranded in Detroit overnight, no fun. It was a complete mess. So was that a cyber incident? Well, it may be, right? It depends on your definition. There was no malicious actor. It was a bad update pushed through a highly trusted channel that caused the failure. But it was definitely an integrity failure. Hang on. So security is not just about stopping attackers, it's about preventing things that cause systems to fail. And integrity failures cause widespread harm. They're security events, regardless of intent. So every cybersecurity student knows about the CIA triad, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Right? These are the three properties that we're supposed to provide. We've built decades of security thinking around confidentiality and availability. And we have some really good systems for both, even though we're far from done. But integrity has been the long-neglected middle child. NIST, which is the U.S. standards body, defines integrity narrowly, preventing improper information modification or destruction. You'll see broader definitions that include unauthorized and undetected modification of information, both deliberate attacks and on corruption, and they'll explicitly add authenticity and non-repudiation. But it's still not broad enough for the systems we're building. To me, integrity is also accuracy. Right? Is the output correct? Completeness. Is anything relevant missing? Consistency. Does meaning drift as data moves in both time and space? Freshness. Is it current or is it replayed or stale? Provenance. Where does the data come from? Who touched it? What transformed it? Semantic integrity. Did the meaning change as data move across formats or models or organizations? Accountability. Can we reconstruct what happened and why? And finally, recoverability. When integrity fails, can we detect it? Can we quantify the damage? Can we recover to a known good state? I think of integrity generally as correctness. This isn't one control, this is an overall systems property. Because correctness isn't a single value, it's an envelope of constraints, invariance, acceptable risk. And integrity is how you keep a system inside that envelope and prove that it stayed there even under attack, error, or drift. Integrity is a guarantee that data won't be modified without authorization, that any transformations from input to processing to output are verifiable throughout the entire data's life cycle. Or more simply, integrity turns information into evidence. Integrity makes IT systems trustworthy. So we tend not to think of it this way, but we already have primitive integrity systems in our computers. The reboot process, which returns the computer to a known good state, is an integrity system. The undo button, which lets users recover from mistakes, is another integrity system. Integrity is making sure the data is accurate when collected, that it comes from a trustworthy source and hasn't been spoofed or replayed. So digital signatures preserves integrity. Integrity is ensuring the data doesn't change as it moves around. So any system to detect hard drive errors or file corruption or drop packets are integrity systems. Checksums are an integrity system. And just as exposing personal data on a website is a confidentiality breach, even when no one accesses it, failing to guarantee the integrity of data is also a breach, even if no one deliberately manipulated that data. Integrity breaches include malicious actions and also inadvertent mistakes, like the CrowdStrike outage. But adversaries love these failure modes because they're high leverage and hard to distinguish from normal errors. Integrity failures are often silent. The system could be up and still be wrong. And wrong can look plausible. It's not always a crash. It could be a subtle shift in outputs and decisions. We might not notice an integrity breach until damage is done. Similar to confidentiality breaches. All right, so why am I banging on integrity now? Because the internet is changing again. In the emerging world, call it Web 3.0, the big shift is agency. Computers increasingly have right access to the world. As then the internet shifts from an information medium to a control plane for society. IoT devices bring autonomy to more aspects of our physical lives. So, smart homes, smart manufacturing, smart power grids, smart cities. And AI agents accelerate this. Intelligent systems that don't just advise, but act. And so think of it as the automation of consequences at machine speed, at too fast for human oversight. So in this smart, distributed, connected, autonomous world, integrity becomes the foundation for all the other security properties. Sensors go from data sources to attack surfaces. Think of GPS cameras, microphones, temperature probes, fraud signals, human feedback. Anything that's input can be attacked. And actuators go from outputs to capabilities. Door locks, trading systems, industrial controls, medical devices, approval workflows. Anything that's output can be weaponized. And without integrity, you have the wrong dosage, the wrong valve position, the wrong braking distance, the wrong grid response. But in this world, the lines between safety engineering, reliability engineering, and cybersecurity start to blur. Right, so without integrity, the rest of security doesn't matter. Right, encryption secures corrupted data. Uptime amplifies incorrect actions. And smart devices become fast devices that do the wrong thing. And adversaries will manipulate these systems to manipulate the real world. And most modern attacks against AI systems are integrity attacks. Putting small stickers on road signs to fool self-driving cars is an integrity attack. Prompt injection is an integrity attack. And in both cases, the AI model can't distinguish between legitimate data and malicious commands. And the attacks succeed even though the model is working correctly. So manipulation of the training data, the model, the input, the output, the feedback are all integrity attacks. Now, integrity is critical of personal AIs. It's hard to imagine a personal digital assistant without strong integrity protections. But it's arguably even more important for AIs inside organizations. The AI companies are pushing corporate AI, right, trained on all an organization's data, generating reports, analyzing decisions, taking actions on its behalf. And remember, there are two types of AI integrity failures. The first is when the AI does the wrong thing, right? It misunderstands the input or gets the answers wrong because of the way it was created and trained. The second is when an adversary deliberately manipulates the AI to do the wrong thing. And any AI that's used in an adversarial environment, and that's almost all of them, will be vulnerable to that sort of attack. So imagine an AI as an advisor in an international trade negotiation, or as a political strategist, or a legal researcher. There will be an incentive for someone to hack the AI. Maybe a criminal, maybe a government. And it doesn't matter how accurate, capable, or hallucination-free an AI system is. Right? The integrity of the system is critical. If we can't guarantee that it hasn't been compromised, it just won't be trusted. And trust is the key word here. There's a lot of talk about trustworthy AI and trustworthy IoT devices like cars and medical devices. Trust is about correctness. And this means integrity. It means demonstrable integrity. Okay, so let's dig into integrity as a security property. I think of it as having four distinct interrelated parts: input, processing, storage, and context. And so take them one at a time. So first, input integrity. Do you trust what goes into your system? This is the authenticity and quality of data entering the system. Attacks here include spoofing, replay, data poisoning, data laundering through seemingly reputable sources. Defenses look like authenticated sensors, signed telemetry, redundancy, sensor fusion, sanity checks, also rate limits, plausibility constraints, cross-checking sources that don't share the same failure modes. And when this fails, bad things happen fast. So Meta's 2021 global outage started with a routine maintenance command that unintentionally took down backbone systems. An audit system that should have caught it didn't because of a bug. Then BGP withdrawals made the DNS system unreachable. It was a very expensive input integrity failure. In cyber-physical systems, input integrity can become literal safety. Right? Faulty sensor data was the initial cause of the Boeing 737 MAX disasters. Right? So sensors fed bad data into an automation that repeatedly pushed plane's nose down. All right, so second is processing integrity. Does your system transform inputs to outputs correctly? This is correctness of processing. Code, models, business logic, orchestration, pipelines. This is where most traditional vulnerabilities live. And it's where most traditional attackers live. So supply chain compromise, runtime tampering, memory corruption. And defenses include memory safe code, sandboxing, least privilege tools, and policy checks before high-impact actions. This is where high-integrity engineering shows up, right? Formal methods for critical code, secure sandboxes, runtime monitors. And failures here can often also be spectacular. So 1996, the Ariane 5 rocket's maiden flight, a 16-bit floating point integer was converted to a 16-bit signed integer, and the resulting overflow triggered an exception leading to the rocket self-destructing. 1999, another space example, the Mars Climate Orbiter. This was another unit mismatch, English and metric, that resulted in the loss of the spacecraft. All right, third, storage integrity. Does your system preserve correctness over time? So controls include immutable logs, signed configurations, append-only audit trails, version model registries with provenance. Failures, 2023, the FAA, the U.S. agency that's monitoring aircraft in real time, NOTAM is one of their systems, had an outage countrywide. So an engineer mistakenly replaced one file with another while fixing a database synchronization issue. And that just grounded flights worldwide. 2020 SolarWinds is another integrity failure. This is Trojanized code inserted into a build update path. Nearly 18,000 customers compromised by the malicious update. And note that AI systems are particularly difficult to secure here, right? Because of the way they naturally evolve over time. It's going to be hard to figure out whether they preserve correctness. Fourth is contextual integrity. Does your system behave as expected? So this is legal scholar Helen Nessenbaum's idea with respect to privacy, that data flows should respect contextual norms. Who sent the data, who received it, and for what purpose. So contextual integrity isn't just, is it correct? It's also, is the data being used in ways that people reasonably expect? So your smart speaker listening for a wake-up word is one context. The service provider using that data for ad targeting is another. An attacker turning that speaker into an eavesdropping device is yet another. Right? The data might be accurate, but the uses violate contextual integrity. The Cambridge Analytica scandal was a contextual integrity failure. Right? Data gathered for conventional marketing purposes was repurposed for political persuasion. And AI systems are spectacular here at breaking contextual boundaries, because they are context-dissolving machines. Right? They take data from one sphere and apply it to others. That's what they do. So that's the four. At least in my initial conceptualization of them, this is work in progress. Right? There may be others. And this might be too much. Right? Every bug can't be an integrity failure. We need to figure out the box that integrity lives in, because if everything's in the box, it's not a useful term. Right? If everything counts as integrity, then nothing counts as integrity. So to me, integrity failures are those that directly affect correctness or trustworthiness, system behavior relative to its specified properties, the ability to audit or verify system actions, and critical safety outcomes. The normal bugs that don't affect these might be reliability issues, but not integrity issues. All right, regardless of how we define the edge of this term, we need to solve it. But first, we need to adjust our language. All right, so this is a very English thing. I'm actually curious what the French response is. In English, we have adjectives for a lot of security properties: available, private, confidential, reliable, secure. But there is no everyday word for a system with integrity in the English language. Apparently there is a word. It is called integrous. It is not in Webster's Third Dictionary, even the unabridged version. The Oxford English Dictionary does have a listing for it. It's marked as obsolete, with the only recorded use in the mid-1600s in England. Does French have a word? Awesome. All right. After this is over, I need to write it down. All right. But, I want to bring this word back. And I think I'm not just being pedantic, although I'm being a little pedantic. Right? Language shapes what we talk about, what we fund, what we build, what we measure. So I want to start talking about integrous system design. And it's a hard problem. And it needs some deep fundamental research. All right, so how do we actually do integrous system design? It's not one thing, it's a bunch of interrelated things. Right? As I said earlier, it's how you keep a system inside an envelope of constraints, invariance, and acceptable risk. Integrity can't be a feature you bolt on at the end. It has to be an organizing principle from the beginning. So integrity involves a bunch of things we're already supposed to be doing: defense in depth, least privilege, cryptographic availability. Integrity requires nuanced authentication, like far more sophisticated than today's "who are you" mechanisms. We need authentication to deal with all the ad hoc connectedness of real-world systems. We need to authenticate things as well as people, right? Processes, devices, versions, cloud services, remote objects. We need to authenticate sources, right? Sensor data, APIs, model updates, what software is running, on what hardware, in what configuration. Integrity requires granular access control, systems that allow users and organizations to maintain precise control over who can access and modify information and for what purpose. Right? Common protocols and interfaces so things interoperate. Right? Human-centered integrity interfaces so people know what changes, why, and who approved it. And somehow a hard separation in between content and commands in Gen AI systems. Integrity requires end-to-end provenance at internet scale. And so not just data, but also inputs, tools, and decisions, and approvals, right? Who reviewed it, who signed off, and what policy allowed it. This includes verifiable sensors and verifiable outputs. This includes supply chain integrity. So things like SBOMs, software bill of materials, and SigStore, which is a Linux Foundation project for signing software artifacts, and SLSAs, right, supply chain levels for software artifacts, and reproducible builds, secure update frameworks, measured boot so you know a system hasn't been corrupted, remote attestation so other systems can verify things before trusting them. All of this transparent and audible. The idea here is to have verifiable chains of trust from input to processing to output. Integrity requires continuous data validation, right, at input, but also throughout the system. So we need to be able to detect outliers, drift, impossible values, suspicious correlations. I want AI agents to treat external content as hostile by default. Integrity requires systems assurance, like whatever that ends up meaning, and I don't know yet. Integrity requires rethinking recovery, right? So more than simple backups, backup systems with versioning and immutable snapshots, tested restores, functional rollbacks. What does it mean to recover from an integrity failure? Like quickly, automatically, without making things worse. Integrity requires its own set of metrics, ways to define, measure, and test the integrity of a process. Integrity service level objectives. I don't even know what that means. And mean time to detect integrity failures. So we need integrity verification systems and integrity breach detection systems. And finally, integrity requires governance and certification. So none of this happens without accountability. Audits, liability, and regulation, because incentives matter. And this is where we'll get our context integrity defenses. Regulation is how we maintain integrity in shared spaces, even in the physical world. Right? Otherwise, you get pollution, you get fraud, you get disinformation. Right? No one is more invested in the integrity of your data than you are, right? Especially if you want a personal AI to use that data for your benefit. So 2014, Tim Berners-Lee, the guy who invented the web, he called for a Magna Carta for the web. This was in the wake of the Edward Snowden revelations, and it was explicitly a call for a trustworthy internet, broadly defined, where people and organizations have control over their data. He built a set of protocols for distributed data ownership called SOLID. And these protocols provide for a common system of confidentiality, availability, and integrity. And they're really very well suited for giving AIs access to our personal data, right? And the computers, devices, and services in our lives. Something like SOLID seems essential for AI agents, for integrous AI agents. So that's my research agenda. This is all evolving. There are certainly aspects of integrity that we haven't fully thought of yet. And I don't think we'll notice them until we're deep into research. But this is the decade we're going to do it. We need to make integrity an architectural requirement and not a patch. Integrity controls have to be built into the foundation of the internet. Kind of in the same way that HTTPS went from banking luxury to baseline expectation. And we need to treat integrity as a lifestyle property and extend it to unreliable parts and resource-constrained environments. So step back for a minute and think about this in terms of the evolution of the internet. So Web 1.0, 1990s, early 2000s, was all about availability. So individuals, organizations rushed to digitize their content, put it online, and this created the vast repository of human knowledge we know today. Right? Making information available overshadowed all other concerns. So Web 2.0, the current web, emphasizes confidentiality. So this is the read-write web, where your private data needs to remain private. So think of online banking, e-commerce, social media, anywhere you're an active participant. Confidentiality is paramount. And we built a lot of machinery for it, right? Encryption, access control, identity systems, privacy regulations. Web 3.0 is a distributed, decentralized, intelligent web of tomorrow. This is peer-to-peer networking, distributed data ownership and storage, Internet of Things, AI agents. All of those things require verifiable, trustworthy data and computation, integrity. There is no real-time car-to-car communication without integrity. There is no drone coordination or smart power grid or reliable mesh networking. And there are no useful AI agents. I predict integrity will be the key security problem of the next decade. So in another context, I talked about this as a research question that rivals the internet itself. The internet was created to answer this question. Can we build a reliable network out of unreliable parts in an unreliable world? That's an availability question. About 10 years ago, I asked a similar question. Can we build a secure network out of insecure parts in an insecure world? And when I said that, I meant that as a question about confidentiality. Now I want to ask it about integrity. Can we build an integrous system out of non-integrous parts in a non-integrous world? The answer isn't obviously yes, but it's not obviously no either. And that's the real research question. All right, so I want to end with the simplest version. Confidentiality is about secrets, availability is about uptime, and integrity is about correctness. Secrets enable privacy, uptime enables service, correctness enables trust. Actually, all of them enable trust. But when computers have right access to the world, correctness is paramount. Because encrypting corrupted data just locks in errors. And highly available misinformation is just an amplifier. So the questions I want to leave you are this. Where can a system be corrupted? How do we know if it is? And what will we do when it is? And finally, who's accountable? So that's integrity, that's trust, and that's the age we're in. Thank you.